Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for the fourth of the Final Destination films in this box set here, the next to last one as of right now. We're supposed to get a number 6, like next year. But anyway, this movie is the 2009, now 15 years old as of August of this year, movie, which is crazy to me, called The Final Destination. Not Final Destination 4. No, that wasn't good enough. This was supposed to be, at the time, the last one we'd ever get. And it made too much money, so we got a number 5, thankfully, because this movie's awful. This movie is kind of unanimously, from people who are fans, from people who are not fans, voted to be the worst movie, and I don't think anybody could ever argue otherwise. There are films that I visit from the series that, mainly number 1, because I haven't seen number 5 in a long time, but number 1 has gotten more and more disappointing over the years. I don't really watch that one as much as I said in my review for it, but this movie is a whole new level of bad. It, at times, can even be so bad it makes me laugh, you know? And not in a fun way like Dragon Ball Evolution. No, it's just bad, period. So where do I even begin with this? Aside from it being obviously the worst one, it's a shame because of a lot of the things it gets right that are misused, poorly executed, whatever. The biggest word I want to use to identify with this movie is that it looks, feels, sounds cheap in every way possible. It's just cheap looking. Everything about it. I hate it. I think it is absolutely unwatchable. There's a reason I never revisited this film after I rented it once upon a time on DVD. The only time I've ever seen this movie, back when it first came out to DVD rental, and my family and I watched it. I hated it then. I knew it was the worst one back then because I watched 2 and 3 religiously. And I stand by that to this day, that this is awful, like most people say. A moment ago I mentioned that. So anyway, this was supposed to be the final one, and they didn't want to call it Final Destination 4. Kind of a not great title. It's kind of like the Halloween 2018 syndrome that everything else had to do the same thing, like Scream 5 was just called Scream, and so on and so on. I hate that, but, you know, it is what it is. This movie here follows the general formula, for the most part, that we typically have with Final Destination films. Sometimes it kind of breaks the logic of the series. I don't really love that all that much. We have the setup this time for the big accident that a lot of people know we have to do with the series as part of the formula. The big accident here is that we have a group of friends and some strangers and whatever hanging out at this kind of local racetrack for a NASCAR rally. It's not officially NASCAR, but it's that kind of stock car racing types of stuff. And I think that's a generally great idea for this franchise. I think you could have done a lot with that, and frankly, I would love for them to remake this movie at some point and do something new with it. Not for Final Destination 6, but maybe if we get a new trilogy of films, or like another 5 movies, eventually remake this one. 20 years down the road, remake this movie. Well, I guess we're close to that. But anyway, remake this movie at some point, because it could have been really good, and it sucks in every way. It seems like every ball that could be dropped in the Destination series was dropped here. And it was. It just, there's no arguing it. I don't care if you are a fan of this movie or not. I don't think there are many out there. But if you happen to be, don't lie to yourself. You know the ball was dropped numerous times with this movie, and it's one of the most disappointing horror series sequels ever made, in my opinion. But the NASCAR idea I thought was pretty cool. Typically with Final Destination, people survive a huge tragedy because there's a main character who has a vision of this accident right before it happens. They warn people, they all happen to get out of the situation early enough that they aren't killed in it. And death comes after them in a very slasher fashion. Now, this was also filmed to be a 3D movie once upon a time in 2009, and I hate it. It's just like Friday the 13th Part 3. It's that constant, like, yo-yo in-your-face type of shit that I hate. And it's in this movie a lot. A lot, dude. And the cast being as bad as they are, with the script as bad as it is, and the writing being so awful, is shocking, to say the least. This is a very weird anomaly in this franchise, and what I mean by that, this is directed by David R. Ellis, the guy who directed what is typically known to most fans and non-fans of the series to be the best film in the series, called Final Destination 2. what the hell? What happened? I'm assuming all the budget and the talent went into the 3D work, and that they couldn't really do anything creative. Because even the kills here are not elaborate, and this is coming from the writer of the last couple of movies too. I don't know what happened here. I don't understand what happened. I don't understand what went wrong behind the scenes, if it was a budgetary thing. It feels like budgetary issues with all the, I guess, push to make it a 3D movie. Maybe their budget was cut extremely. I didn't look into that before the review, but I assume that could be a big factor here. I would love to go online and find out what the cast, if they have said anything, what they have to say about this movie, because it was shockingly bad. Can you imagine knowing how good the first 3 Final Destination films are at the time when this was coming out, being cast for this movie, and making this movie with this script, how bad it was, how bad the kills are? And the kills aren't even bad just because they're stylized typically for 3D. They're bad because they're not even elaborate. It's not like, you know, toilet water comes out of the bottom of some broken-ass toilet, somebody slips in it, bashes their head into a mirror in their bathroom, and then happen to fall over and something crazy happens that's super crazy and zany to prove that these people know before they die that death came after them. It wasn't just an accident that killed them. It's not like that. It's not the fact that these deaths are so simplistic only. It's the fact that they're enhanced with a lot of CGI. Most of the time somebody will die on camera with a CGI effect, and then we cut to like their dead body on the ground that's a bunch of practical stuff that looks good. It looks good, but the CGI death right before that, the frame before it, looks awful. How many times did that happen in this movie? I counted at least 3 times, and it's shockingly bad in that regard. When the NASCAR race thing happens, the big accident that kills so many people, it's not just the NASCAR cars blowing up and stuff like that. The whole freaking Coliseum they're sitting in is falling apart. And it's just pathetic. People are just getting crushed, and then crushed again, and crushed again. It's not even a cool setup for the film, despite the NASCAR idea being kind of a cool idea. Because I'm a racing fan, I think that'd be cool. I'm not a NASCAR fan, but I like race cars, so you could have done a whole lot with this. Being a Southerner, I think it would have been kind of cool to have like an all Southern accent cast, and you could have done some stuff with that. I don't know. It could have been something different, but Hollywood ain't gonna do that. The CGI is in the way. There's like one good song in the soundtrack that actually makes this movie kind of worthwhile for watching. Aside from that, no. I didn't like almost anything in this movie. Once again, the cast was bad. The directing is awful in this movie. I don't know what happened to David R. Ellis, or the budget. Like I said, I don't know. Something happened, though. I know that much. You know, it's an instinct that I have 15 years later. It's an instinct that I had 15 years ago when this piece of shit came out. It looks cheap. It looks awful. Scenes that are shot indoors look cheap. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I remember when the trailers were coming out, people were always trying to talk about how this looked bad from the trailers, and I didn't see that because I was so young. I was a teenager when this came out. I didn't see that, but when I saw the movie, I knew better. Like I said, most people did. That's why this has such a bad reputation in general. This movie sucks. I cannot believe what happened to it. And I'm bummed about that, because this put a stain on the series for a couple of years until we got Part 5, which was, again, 1,000,000,000 times better. A lot of people seem to agree Part 5 is one of the best ones in the franchise. I have not rewatched it at this current moment. I'm going to, obviously, God willing, for the next review next weekend. But 4 is one of the most disappointing films I have ever seen in a franchise. Sometimes, with how cheap it looks, it puts things like Jason Goes to Hell up above this. Like, as horrible as that movie is. That film feels like The Last Jedi of Friday the 13th. This feels like just a slap in the face to see what the studio could get away with, you know, upon the audience. So anyway, Final Destination 4, it's awful. It's awful. I think we can all agree to that fairly, that it's awful. I think it's insulting most of the time. And I wish the NASCAR premise had been used better in a better movie overall. The cast are awful. Oh, I forgot to mention, too, the visions. Like, visions plural, right? Usually we have one vision the main character is given to try to warn everybody they get out of the potential accident that's coming. Accident happens, they're all not present when it happens, and now they're hunted down, right? As I said earlier. This film breaks the rule, and now this main character has multiple visions right before somebody's about to die, and that's stupid. I don't know what happened there. I understand that maybe it was supposed to be a new thing we were going to introduce in the series to maybe add a new element of tension. I get that. That's fine. It's the way these visions are done, where it's like very 3D, like there's a ball and hook and chain at one point that comes out of the screen to come at you. By the way, watching a 3D movie in 2D like this, or like the My Bloody Valentine remake, has not aged well at all. This is no exception at this point, 15 years later. It's awful. It's awful, awful, awful. I don't think you understand that until you've seen this film. I don't like the multiple visions thing, at least the way it's done here. Maybe you could make it work in a better FD movie, but here, no, absolutely not. So anyway, Final Destination 4, or The Final Destination as it's called with a very stupid title. If I had to rate the film on a 5-star basis, you have to understand, I rate based on enjoyability. For anybody who happens to be new, I've had a lot of new people come to the channel in recent times, and thank you for being here, by the way. Everybody who watches these videos, I appreciate you for your support. I rate based on enjoyability. I think we all kind of know that, right? I have to like something in the movie to give it a solid rating. I hate this. I think it is truly awful. I have nothing in it that I like. Not a single kill is good in here. Nothing. Nothing at all. So I would give it a 1 out of 5 stars because I don't find it entertaining. I don't find it so bad it's good. I don't find anything redeemable or time-worthy in this movie. It's bad. Even a good soundtrack could have made this a little bit more tolerable. We don't even have that because they didn't have the budget for it. But, yeah. So, Final Destination 4, The Final Destination, whatever we're calling it. It sucks. Don't spend your time and money on this. If you happen to get a pack of something like this where you can get all the films together, do it. Do it so you can save some money. But aside from that, no. It's awful. I can't wait to rewatch Part 5, though, and talk about it very soon. Again, God willing. So, anyway, what did you think about Final Destination 4? Let me know your thoughts and comments about it down in the comment section down below. Has it gotten better for you since it came out back in the day? I'd love to hear all that down below, too. For me, no. Absolutely not. But I'd love to hear what you have to say about it down below. And I guess just another heads up, usually when I'm on the last movie, next week will be the last review for the Final Destination series, at least until 6 comes out, possibly next year, the year after, whenever that's coming. And then I'm going to rank these movies after I review Part 5 next week. So hopefully you tune in for all of that. Let me know what you think about all the stuff, what your ranking would be. And that's it. That's all I got. So thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you next week, and goodbye.